All right, in this video, I'm going to be predicting the NBA standings for the Eastern Conference following 1 week of play. So last video was Western Conference. Let's take a look. This is what it looks like. Once again, a lot of surprises. Same with the Eastern Conference. I don't think anyone thought the Bulls were going to be top of the conference, even though it's just 4 games. So let's take a look at their teams. First off, I have clearly the Cavaliers. Once again, I don't know for sure what they're going to look like compared to last year. It's another question. They started off with it's close to 20, like 17 games, 15 games in a row that they all won. They've already lost a couple of games, but their roster just top to bottom. They have DPOY, Evan Mobley, who's probably going to take another jump with scoring at least. So they're pretty much a lock for a top 2 seed, I would say. It's them and then the New York Knicks. Number 2, once again, because there's no Celtics, they're not going to be in the mix for a top seed. Jason Tatum is likely going to miss the entire year with a ruptured Achilles. But the New York Knicks, probably one of the toughest teams when it comes playoff time to beat. They're physical, they're smart, they're hard to play against at home. So if they meet the Cavs in the conference finals, that'll be a great series. Number 3, I have the Bucks. I know this is a little high, but Giannis he's just that good. It's hard for me to put them anywhere below, I'd say, like a 3 or 4 seed. He'll alone win you close to 45 games, and it looks like their team's only getting better around him. Then I have the Pistons. This is a little bit high once again, but they are one of the teams that obviously is young and developing. They had I would say, a little bit overwhelming year last year, but it looks like they're only going to take a step forward. All of their players are pretty much getting better. I don't expect Cade to take a step back from what he did last year as well. Then I have the Orlando Magic. So far, it's looking a little bit questionable, but at the same time, Franz looks like a top 30 player in the league. They did acquire Desmond Bane as a third option, and then Paulo, he's in a little bit of a slump, but I'm a big Paulo guy. I think he's only going to get better once again. So this is where I have the Orlando Magic falling. Then you have the Atlanta Hawks. This is the big question mark team because it's one of the last years I'd say you can really sort of look at Trey and say, where are we going to go? Are we going to keep him to go in this direction? But at the same time, they did have the number 1 pick a couple years ago. Reece Shea, he's been looking a lot better, at least to start this season, than he was last year. He did have a good rookie season, but it looks like they're only going to get better, and I do have them falling just out of the play-in. Then I have the Boston Celtics. It's just once again a little high considering they do have their pick. They don't have Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown's good. They do have a really good team, and they are very, very well coached. So I do see them above a lot of those teams that are sort of in the play-in mix. Then I have the Bulls. It's hard for me to look at a team that starts 4-0 with a young player like Matas and say they're not going to be as good as what they look like. But I don't see them falling off that much. I don't see them sort of being in that slump of like a 9, 10, 11 seed, which they have been the last couple of years. Then I have the Sixers. Biggest question mark, I'd say, in the entire Eastern Conference. They could somehow be a top 3 or 4 seed. They could also miss the playoffs. It doesn't look like they're as good as people thought they were going to be, especially with Embiid playing, I'd say, what looks like injured or just slow, but Tyrese Maxey is incredible. It looks like he's going to give you 30 a night, which I don't think I would have expected, and then they do have a top rookie in the class in BJ. Then I have the Raptors. They're very young. They have a ton of talent, but at the same time, I don't see them being a bottom seed. They're just not quite good enough yet. They're not complete of a roster yet to be in the top. I'd say like a top 8 seed. And then I have the Miami Heat. They're talented. They have Tyler and Bam. Bam's young still. I think he's like 26. But at the same time, they're not good enough to compete, but they're also just in the area where they can't really tank. So it's a tough spot. Then I have the Pacers. Miles Turner, I'd say, is the biggest loss beside, obviously, Tyrese, but they just completely look like an incomplete roster. It's hard for me to put them any higher than this. And then next up, I have the Charlotte Hornets. They're obviously very young as well, but at the same time, LaMelo is going to win you about 20 to 30 games minimum, and I think they're only going to get better, but this is where they fall for now. Then I have the Wizards. Not much to say. They're just not a good team. And then last in the conference, the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think they're going to win more than 25 games this year. But once again, to rebuild, they do have about 7 guards on the roster, but I don't see them being any better than a 13 seed. So these are the standings top to bottom. A lot of question marks Eastern Conference, but let me know if you change anything else.